them up in 5, 4, 3, 2.
Now, are we started?
Yep.
It's not starting.
Your quick time's not going?
No, it's not going, man. Hold on.
Welcome to 755 Israel, presented by Topps. Check
That's a
out
false
Topps
start.
Project 70, celebrating 70 years of Topps baseball cards.
Oh, you're doing it.
Yeah, I did it for you. You're welcome. Behind the scenes look as we have technical difficulties.
Now we're going. Welcome to 755 is real. I am David O'Brien, Braves writer for The Athletic. I'm with Eric O'Flaherty. You might be familiar with him. You might remember him many years ago. Eric, what's happening out in the state of Washington?
Nothing.
Hey, you guys got a minor league team still in Walla Walla, by the way? I meant to ask you that.
I don't know what. I think it's like a college wood bat.
It was one of those that got.
No, they haven't been here
off
for a long time. They just brought this team back. It's like college kids that I think are okay, but people go watch anyway.
Do you go watch?
I've been to one, but I'll probably go, when the smoke out here clears and it stops being 107 every day.
Yeah. They've got a history of, I didn't realize they got a pretty rich history of baseball in Walla Walla, minor league baseball in Walla Walla.
Yep.
Some
John
big-time
Kruk
players.
and Tony Gwynn were here.
Yeah, I heard that story
yesterday.
Tony Gwynn. I was reading the stories about Tony Gwynn, and some of them were in Walla Walla. How's the ballpark?
It's okay. It's decent for the level that it is,
I can see you're totally excited about Walla Walla minor league baseball, so we'll move on.
Yeah.
Hey, so Liberty Media released its quarterly earnings report this year, and a little more anticipated than normal. I mean, I guess a year ago we anticipated it. We were eager to see how much money they lost during when no baseball was played, but it was about what you'd think. The profits were up over 3,000% from a year ago when no baseball was played in the second quarter to this year. Baseball revenues, and that's including development, next door, all that, were 11 million last year for the second quarter. This year, Liberty Media baseball revenues for the Braves, 216 million for the same quarter this year, second quarter. They lead the majors in home attendance, by the way. If you factor in increased expenses, operating profits for the quarter costs, it costs a lot of money to run a team, travel, pay employees, all that, open a stadium, security. Operating profit for the quarter was $54 million after a $26 million operating loss a year ago. So what, an $80 million turn over the quarter?
It's about what you expected. I mean, you expected it to be quite a big difference, having no fans versus leading the league in attendance.
So, and just from talking to people, I think that had a lot to do with the delay with the a lot of people are, including myself, have asked why the delay with Freddie Freeman. I think a lot of it was to do with quarterly earnings. I think Liberty wanted to see the bottom line before they feel comfortable with making an offer to Freddie Freeman. But I would anticipate that offer is made before the end of the season.
It's bad timing because
he might be on the way to a second MVP.
Might have got a better deal in May.
Oh man, if they were shrewd businessmen, which they are, but if they were really shrewd and cold, which they are, they would have made the offer to Freddie at like the second week of May when he was hitting 195.
Somewhere under 200.
And going, oh, guy, we love you, and we want you to stay here forever, but you're obviously on the downhill now. We're going to offer you $10 million a year for the next.
Maybe he panics too.
We think that's more than enough given your circumstances and where your performance has gone.
And now he looks like he might get maybe another MVP. At least he's playing like it, the last couple months.
He and Austin Riley right now, with assuming Tatis is going to be out a while. If Tatis is out a month,
DeGrom's hurt.
DeGrom's out till September. You take those two out of the competition, it's wide open. Mm-hmm. I mean, Austin Riley and Freddie Freeman both could get votes.
Yep. Well, if he keeps hitting like this or anywhere close, I mean, he could run away with it because I don't know. Yeah. I saw a stat. He's been hitting almost 400 for the last month.
We'll get to those stats here in a second. But first of all, wanted to get to the most important besides the Liberty Media revenues, the bigger story for Braves fans, last night, this team finally got over 500. And I got this sense, and I said this a couple of days ago. I told my boss this and some other people online, that I think this to me felt different than the previous times where the Braves flirted with 500, because they held their own in that 18-game brutal stretch coming out of the break. They went one loss, which against the competition they were facing included 3 of the 6 division leaders, and the other 2 teams were contenders. They held their own. They could have easily been 3 or 4 games over 500 in that stretch, despite losing some more people to injuries, despite incorporating a bunch of new bodies into the fray. They held their own, and then they go to St. Louis. I know St. Louis is down this year, but they're still above 500, and they still were a contender coming out of the break. They won the first couple of games there, and they had one of those comeback wins in game 2 where they were down 3-0 in the first inning, came back and won.
That's what sold me.
Yeah, I really felt different, but it had a different vibe. Then last night they come back again after twice giving up a lead.
Yep.
And they put together one of those late innings rallies. Before, by the way, the night before, by the way, they won for the first time this year when it was tied after 7 innings. The first time in 12 games.
The last 2 games felt like the team you watched the last 3 years. It felt like the team that ran away with the division, because those were the games that happened. They'd be down, and we talked about it all the time. They'd be down 4, and you'd feel like it was a tie game.
Yeah.
And the bullpen pitched great. The guy, when Riley hit that home run last night to tie it, I said there's no way they're losing this game.
Yeah.
And because it clinched it for me that they got that mojo back.
So that 8th inning rally was a lot different than we've seen, because it was so many walks. You just don't see that. 4 consecutive bases loaded walks. 3 of them by an all-star closer this year, Reyes. He had the yips for a while there. He just couldn't throw a strike. I know some of them were close, so maybe it wasn't the yips, but he could not throw a strike. When
a pitcher goes into that mode, you don't even need to take a bat up there.
Yeah.
You don't even need to take a bat. And you see it so often. And this is what always pisses me off, because you'll get to like the first or second walk, and some hitter will come up there and swing first pitch. And I talk to hitters about it. Their mindset is always, well, he just walked. He just threw 4 straight balls. He's going to groove one now.
Right.
Like, dude, he's been trying to groove one for 2 hitters. He cannot find the zone. And the only way out of this is either you swing the bat and let him off the hook, or his manager yanks him from the game. If he keeps throwing, he's going to throw a strike 10% of the time until he comes out of the game. That mode, when a pitcher goes into that, it's the worst feeling in the world.
Drives me crazy when I see a hitter come up there, and he will get a strike. It's in the strike zone.
2-1.
But he'll pop up or fly out.
Yep.
It's like, dude, but you were going to walk, and the guy's going to bury himself further, and you just helped him out of the inning or gave him confidence. Now he can settle back down.
They did it. Well, that's all it takes to flip it too, is just one thing going in your direction, getting a pop up. Now, if you had no outs, now I just need a double play ball. I got to throw one good pitch. Or if whatever the deal is, once they swing and let you off the hook, it's like a reset. But when you're just in that mode where you're getting that courtesy clap from the fans every time you throw a strike, the hitters know you can't throw strikes, and you start feeling for it, you start guiding the ball. You yank one, then you push one, then you let one sail. Then the catcher went to breaking ball way too late for me. If a guy throws 2 straight fastballs for a ball or 3 straight fastballs for a ball, call something different. And they kept calling heaters for him. I know he throws 100, but just mix it up. But I watch those situations all the time, and it's unbelievable how many times somebody comes up aggressive and does him a favor and gets him out of that mess.
They can't help themselves.
They did a great job of just standing there and making him throw a strike. And that bat that was funny was I was listening to Frank Core when Ozzie came up, just begging him not to swing.
Yes.
Because Frenchie knows.
You've got to take,
It was 3-1, and he's like, take again. Do not swing. Like, he was talking to him. Like, please don't swing. Because he was afraid Ozzie was going to swing. And, Ozzie's aggression plays in his favor a lot.
Right.
But in that situation, if he doesn't swing, this dude is walking him. And the Braves overall just did a great job of letting him just dig himself a hole.
And I thought it was really impressive is that 2 of them were pinch hitters coming in. So those guys usually come in looking. They're not coming in looking to walk. They're coming
especially
in.
Especially against 100.
Right. And I can't pronounce his name. A-Ray Adrianza draws a pinch hit walk, and then Vogt comes in, draws a pinch hit walk. Back to back against
swinging.
Back to yeah.
He's a catcher.
He's too
He's
smart.
been on the other side of that.
Yep.
He's been like, doesn't matter what finger I put down, they're throwing a ball here. I knew he wasn't swinging.
And they were like 2 4-pitch walks and a 5-pitch walk before
Yep.
Ozzie went full count.
Yep. And I thought there was no chance Ozzie would take that 3-2 pitch. And he did.
And then the crazy thing is, so he finally yanks them there. He's getting booed at Busch Stadium, where I don't think I've ever seen a home player get booed.
Yeah.
He got booed about 3 straight plate appearances when he was walking those guys.
Yep.
Even the fans there lost.
They don't really do that there.
No, they never do that. So he gets yanked. Justin Miller comes in. Justin Miller gets ahead 0-2 against Soler and walks in the final run of the inning. I mean, yeah, it was nuts. But yeah, lost in all of it are easy to see because of the freaky nature of that inning. Was that 2-run homer by Riley, which is what got it started. You had Freddie with the opposite field 2-out hit.
Yep.
That's really what got started. But then Austin Riley hits his 23rd home run. He's just blazing hot. And it was on a slider, 2-2 slider. Then you get Dansby Swanson stays hot. Those are 3 guys right there that have been carrying the offense. And Snit had him in great order last night, 3, 4, 5. Dansby doubles. That's when they bring in, because that was off Gallegos, all that right there. Gianni Gallegos got 2 outs and they couldn't get anybody else out. So that's when they bring in their closer. They're like, okay, we're going to bring in a closer. This is a guy, Alex Reyes, who had set a major league record by converting his first 24 save opportunities. For the year, he had 1 blown save and 25 chances, but he had 38 walks. That was the one fly in the ointment. He is, and Vogt said that. Vogt said I faced him early in the year and never won, a matchup against him, but he will miss the strike zone. Vogt was telling everybody that.
Yep.
And they, to their credit, man, made him throw strikes. And good Lord, I've never seen anything like it. He hit Adam Duvall, the first guy faced.
Yep.
So right there, he gets rattled. This is a guy that's prone to walks anyway. Then he walks Peterson, one of the newcomers who's been so big in this.
And Jock's got that Dodger approach,
Yes.
He's going to put together a tough bat against you.
Absolutely. He walks in, then Adrian's a pinch hit, comes in, draws the walk to put them ahead. Then Vogt draws a walk. They're up by 2. Then Albies draws a walk. Then they change pitchers, and Soler draws a walk. So it was right there, all the newcomers, Peterson, Vogt, Soler, Duvall, all of them had a huge part in that inning, which is kind of a microcosm of the last few games since the trade deadline Friday. And these guys have exceeded any reasonable expectations on the immediate impact they've made. Each one of them has really impressed me. And Richard Rodriguez, man, this is a guy that was closing for the Pirates. He's come over here. First time out, he set up, scoreless inning. Second time out, he pitches the 9th inning with them losing 2-1. Third time out, he pitches the 5th inning yesterday. Hat tip to Snit for bringing him in. And when he takes out, when Toussaint leaves the game, he brings in Rich Rodriguez to face the heart of the order there. He just knew it like the matchups, and 3 ground outs.
I thought that was a great move by Snit. 2 things go on there. One, it's awesome that Rodriguez has come over and put his ego aside. I think coming from the Pirates, and now you got a chance to win. Now you got a chance to do something. You're with a veteran group, and you can feel a totally different energy. You're going to jump in and just be like, throw me whenever, because I just want to win. I bet that's probably a big factor for him. But still, a guy going from closing to coming in the 5th. When you come in the 5th, you feel like you're the 8th man in the pen. That's normally a job for a dude that's up and down or something like that. But coming in that situation and just pushing his ego aside and putting up a 0, like that's big. You could tell guys want to win and they want to be a part of it when they do something like that. And then also for Snit, because that was kind of out of character for him. Smiley was battling through, but not letting him face that heart of the order. And it's
last night
with Smiley.
Tukey the night before.
Yeah, when they brought Rodriguez in the 5th.
Yeah, that was last night was Tukey, and then they bring in Chavez. Yeah, last night. Yep. Chavez. Yeah, Rich Rod in the 5th.
Yeah. I don't know. Just making that move for Snit, I thought was a little bit against his normal playbook. And, I hate the 3rd time through the order thing most of the time, but that time I was like, this is where the game could get out of hand, and it proved to be a pretty big move.
If you look at what they've done, and Chavez, by the way, Jesus, man, this guy just keeps doing it. You talked about him the day they got him, the balls that this guy has, but he just keeps going out there, and he's really kind of assumed that role that Tomlin has kind of slipped some this year. And now you got Chavez do the same thing, same type pitcher, throw it at, let him put it in play. You know, he's not going to overpower you, but he's going to throw strikes.
6 innings too, if they want him to.
Yeah. He's not going to walk anybody.
Yeah. He always throws strikes.
And that's what Rich Rodriguez does too. He comes in and throws strikes, man. He throws
basically
strikes.
One pitch. It's 92. Just challenges him with it.
Since these guys came over, Jock Peterson, 19 games with the Braves. He's hit 324 with a 387 OBP, 529 slug, 916 OPS, 3 homers, 13 ribbies in 19 games. 2 of the homers off left-handers.
Yep.
He had not hit a homer off a left-hander in like 3 years.
How many did he face though? Because the Dodgers do a lot of that.
Faced some. It was
stuff.
like, yeah. I mean, by the end, he was strictly a platoon guy, but he was facing 70 at bats. For a while. With the Cubs, he got to face some left-handers, but
didn't
hit a homer. But then you have Soler has played 5 games with the Braves. He's hitting 316. He is 6 for 19 with 2 homers, 5 ribbies, 1,041 OPS. Duvall has come over and he is hitting with the Braves. Find Duvall's. He's made the immediate impact. 6 games with the Braves. He's only hit 143, but he had the big homer, 3 ribbies, 3 walks, and like 3 great defensive plays.
Yeah.
Robbed a guy, made a great throw to cut down runner at second. So he's had an immediate impact as well. And then Rich Rod, we talked about him. And it could have Eddie Rosario back in about another week. He's going to start his rehab assignment. He's been taking BP with him in St. Louis. So don't know what they're going to get from him, but he was like his last 20 games with the Indians. He was raking too. So we'll see. But if they get nothing for him, they gave up nothing for him with Pablo Sandoval. So these other guys are all making a big impact. They're making the lineup so much deeper. It's just so a different lineup now.
It's so much more dangerous. Like you just named Soler, Peterson, and Duvall. You face those 3 guys, one mistake and all 3 of them can hit out of the park. Yeah. It's just a different threat to have to work through than what they were doing before, where you felt like if you made pitches, you were getting guys out. And you can afford to have one guy, Vogt struggled, Smith struggled. You can afford to have one guy like that in your lineup. But when you have 2 or 3 and they're all kind of stacked in a row without that power threat, you just have a different confidence as a pitcher.
And the guys they're bringing off the bench to pinch hit now, I mean, these were guys that were in the lineup before. So like Peterson came off the bench, had a huge double the night before.
Yeah.
When people were bitching about him not being in the lineup, he hit Heredia. Heredia drove in the first run of the game with a line drive double. He's had 11 doubles off lefties this year.
Well, you can match up better too. You don't have to play him against a righty that's a tough matchup. You could throw Jock in there. There's just so much versatility to the lineup now too.
Yeah, so he'll be playing Jock against all right-handers and against some left-handers too, because he's shown he can hit lefties too. So Jock's going to be in there majority of the time, but not all the time. But he's got a platoon thing now, kind of like poor man's Dodgers. They're not paying him millions and millions of dollars, but they've got ability now, flexibility and options. You don't have to just run that same lineup out there when it's struggling. And you get to the bottom of the order and it's not out pitcher. It's just night and day from a week ago.
Yeah,
the changes in this lineup now. So
it feels a lot like what you had to deal with last year and the year before, where that bottom of the lineup could hurt you too. That's taxing mentally for a starting pitcher, reliever. You're looking at the lineup when you're sitting down in the bullpen. It's like, shit, I really don't want to run into Soler, even if he was hitting 7th. I know he's hitting up now, but you run into guys now that, might be a bad matchup for you. And it's that pressure that if you make a mistake up by 1 or 2 runs, it could be a tie game versus, guy going 1st to 3rd on a single.
Yeah. So after winning all 3 games on this very brief trip, it was just a 1-city trip. The last 2 of them comeback wins. Braves come home with a winning record for the first time all year. They got there 1 game before getting to 110. They're 55 and 54. They're only game and a half behind the Mets. Was it game and a half, 2.5? I forgot. And
it's
1
not
game
enough. They
They're
might
right
as well
there.
be tied. Yeah.
They're right there. They've gained like 4 games on the Mets in a week, man.
Yep.
It is, and the Mets are reeling. They just lost 3 out of 4 at Miami. The Mets did. The Mets are a game and a half ahead of the Braves, a half game ahead of the Phillies. I think the Phillies and Braves are both going to overtake the Mets.
Yeah. Well, I was listening. I watched a little bit of the Mets game last night, and I always like listening to their announcers because
Yeah.
when their announcers start getting pissed and frustrated,
And their announcers are good too.
they are good, but when you're playing for them, you don't like them. But when they start getting frustrated and criticizing guys and getting down on guys,
Yeah.
I know they got a good eye for the game, and they're watching and
Yeah.
you know what I mean? I can
Yep.
tell the energy from their announcers overall, just how things are going for them, how the vibe is.
The
So
Mets
they're
are
feeling
going to
that
Mets
pressure.
it, man.
Yeah.
The Mets are going to Mets it. They're doing
I
it
think
in a
they're getting
different
ready
way,
to.
but they're doing it. So the Braves survived that 18-game stretch out of the All-Star break against all those good teams. Cardinals still have a winning record. So I mean, it's not like they were going up there and facing a drag, and they swept them, which you don't do at Busch very often. So now they come home,
Never.
and the Braves are facing the Nats, who are reeling right now. They've waved the white flag at the trade deadline. Vogt said after last night, he said, this is a really good baseball team that I'm happy to be a part of. Our bullpen has been phenomenal. Obviously, timely hitting from the middle of the order. They just picked us up night after night after night. So we're doing a lot of things well, playing good defense, pitching really well. So the starters are giving us a chance to win almost every night, and that's all you can ask. It got to 500 with a 7-4 win on Wednesday after trailing 3-0 in the first inning with Tukey. He had struggled in that first inning. Then he settled down and pitched fine for the rest of his.
Well, he did a good job too there, because that's the start
Smiley.
that could have blown up on Tukey in the past.
Yeah.
I thought he didn't have his best stuff, but he did a good job
Last night. Yeah, I was talking about Smiley the night before. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
So they got to 500 with that win, and then they get over last night. They had lost 9 straight times when they got to 500, or when they had a chance to get to 500. And then when they got to 500, they had lost multiple games every time they got to 500, either 2, 3, or 4 straight games every time they got to 500. So the last 2 nights snapped a lot of these streaks, as well as that godforsaken one loss thing that had started at the All-Star break.
Yep.
So those are all behind him now, and they can just focus on playing, which Snit said, I hope we win a few more so I can just stop talking about 500,
Yeah.
But he was just glad to get past it. But he said he was never worried because he goes, I know we got bigger things in mind, and we're not going to do those things if we're at 500, below 500. So I knew we're going to have to get over 500 at some point.
Yeah.
So, hey, Cam, you got some ads to read, or are we good?
No, we're good. Let's keep trucking along.
All right. So now they come home, and this stretch that they have coming up is they survived the brutal stretch, because now it is entirely different. They got a 3-game home series against the Reds coming up, big starting Tuesday, and that is the Braves' only matchup with another winning team before they face the Yankees, Giants, and Dodgers at the end of the month, August 23rd. Of their 53 remaining games, 29 are against teams with losing records.
That's good.
And the Mets' schedule is quite different than that.
Well, I mean, the players aren't going to take that for granted.
No, you can't.
You gotta look at these teams, because it happens too. A bad team comes into town and you think you're going to take it easy for a few days. You wind up losing 2 or 3, but
yeah,
you got to look at this stretch like this is where we go. It's go time. Put up your numbers now and try to rattle off some win streaks, because they haven't had any of those yet.
Yeah, and this is the time they're entering the soft portion of the schedule. This is the time to reel off one of those 7-game streaks or win 9 out of 10, that kind of thing, because they've got the next 15 games. The Reds is the only tough draw in that bunch, because they've got 2 series against the Nats, 1 against the Marlins, and 1 against the Orioles in that 15-game stretch, along with the 3 games against the Reds. I would say they really have a chance to go. I think they need to go at least 10-5 in that 15-game stretch, and they got a chance to do a little better than that. And they'll give them first place if they do that, depending on what the Phillies do. But I think they'll overtake the Mets in these next 15 games for sure.
Yeah, I mean, I'm always cautious saying stuff like that because baseball just teaches you lessons.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, you can't take anything for granted, and we've seen them lose to
Baseball
Teams they
guys
should
don't
never
like
lose
when
to.
you're cocky.
And we've seen the Marlins sweep them when the Marlins had no business being on the same field with them too. So,
Yep.
by the way, Reyes, I mentioned he was an all-star. Before last night, he had a 1.85 ERA in 46 appearances with 24 saves and 25 chances. That's the guy they drew 3 consecutive bases loaded walks against.
Well, I bet you he's been in that mode another time this year, and teams let him off the hook because of his numbers.
Mm-hmm.
You know, that's the other thing about when you roll out there with good numbers and as a closer or a really good reliever, hitters are on the defensive. You know, they're guarding it. They don't have that confidence to get behind you. But
yeah,
I mean, really, I was really impressed that they recognized that and let him just kind of hang himself versus going up there and seeing the closer and trying to be aggressive and not wanting to get 0-2 or 0-1 on him.
Yeah. Here's the quote I saw that I asked Vote about it last night. Here's the quote that I was looking for. He said of Reyes, he said he's really, really good. He has a tendency sometimes to throw the ball out of the zone. And we showed great patience and made him come over the plate. Fortunately, we were able to take advantage of that and give ourselves a pretty good cushion from it. Ozzie laying off that 3-2 pitch was huge.
Yeah.
So that was a huge run to keep the inning going. And said credit to that and to Jorge with that Soler, with that great at bat as well, with the new pitcher coming in.
Yep. Yeah. 0-2 to a walk that's totally different. That's not a guy all over the place.
Here's a stunning stat here. St. Louis pitchers have issued 25 walks with the bases loaded this season. No other team has more than 13.
Oof.
That's just, if you're a pitching coach, I mean, my God.
That's shit like
25
that, though.
Walks.
You can't even explain.
No.
If you're a pitching coach, you're pissed, but I don't know if you have an answer for it other than telling the guys like, we can't do this. You know, you got to throw strikes.
That's the mental the mental coach.
Yeah.
The sports psychologist, or you know, you got a couple of guys. I would hazard to guess that probably about 3 guys are responsible for half of those at least.
Yeah. I mean, I remember an at bat I had against the Nationals. I was facing Jason Worth, and he kept fouling balls off. It's 3-2 count, bases loaded. We were up by 1, and I just said, "Screw it, I'm going down in flames if if I'm not walking this run in." And I mean, I was aiming right down the middle. I figured, you know, it's not going to end up there because the ball moves, but I threw him a ball on a tee. He put a great swing on it. He barreled it, and I have no clue how it stayed in the park. I've always just believed the baseball gods reward you for having balls because I threw it. I mean, everything about it looked perfect. He kind of pimped it a little bit. The crowd went crazy. I looked up like, well, that's a granny, bud. And it's somehow, I mean, I think Prado caught it at the track, but I mean, I guess, you know, I always tell pitchers, you got to have that mindset and just be willing to force the hitter to swing the bat. And if you get burned hard, but do not walk that run in.
I think Chavez is not only because Tomlin had a huge influence, obviously, on a bunch of pitchers, but he's been here a while, you know? So I think getting that fresh voice and Tomlin coming in or Chavez coming in and these guys seeing Chavez going, he's throwing 5 to 8 miles slower than we are, and he's getting results. Let's ask him and let's watch him see what he's doing. Oh, he's throwing strikes and not being afraid of contact. He's getting, you know, guys, he's letting the defense work. Guys are staying on their toes behind him.
Yep. It's such a big deal to do that. You know, with him, I think it's also been big having him because he's come into some big situations that other guys could have blown.
Yes.
And could have hurt their confidence, set the team back. You know,
he doesn't give a shit. He comes in and says,
doesn't care. I mean, he's been on 47 teams.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's like he knows how to just go out like himself. And he knows he's got to pound the zone and come after guys. He throws little cutters, sinkers. He moves the ball around. But if you ever watched him throw a bullpen, it's insane how I watched him and Scott Casimir play horse once in the pen. And so it had to be a strike, and they would go, you know, cutter back door. And they went pitch for pitch. It took them like 15 minutes each of throwing for somebody to win the game, horse, and Chavez won. But just to watch him be able to throw any pitch Casimir threw for a strike and go tat for tat with him, probably one of the most impressive things I've ever watched in baseball. Because I can't do that. If I throw a pen, I probably throw a strike like 30% of the time.
So I think adding him to that pen and the influence he's had on these guys, and then you add a guy like Vogt, who's really talkative too. He's not a guy like an experienced veteran that came in and it's going to take 2 months to get to know everybody, which would happen if you just got a regular catcher that's not that comfortable and it's not a backup. These backup catchers usually are real personable guys. That's how they stay around, as you know, forever. And he came in and it's like he's been here for 5 years. He immediately got to know, he already knew a few of the pitchers like Smiley, caught a few of them, but he got to know these other guys and got their confidence right away. He showed them, he just by speaking to them, he shows them the knowledge that he has and they got comfortable with it.
Yep.
So I think the influence that he's had has been tremendous. And I know fans hate Kevin Smith because he's so bad offensively, but he's had a really similar effect on the defensive side and calling games. These pitchers have total confidence in those guys calling their games.
Yeah.
And they've got a lot of young pitchers and pitchers coming over from other organizations. So that's pretty big, man.
It's so important. But like with Vogt, we call that getting it. He gets it. When guys get it, you come to a new team, you realize it's not about me. They got their own thing going. I'm just going to jump right in, be myself and see how I fit in. If I don't, whatever. But you get it that it's not about you. You know what's expected of you. And that's part of being a veteran is you've been in enough clubhouses, you know what plays and you know what works. You know what jokes get laughs, you know which ones suck. Yeah. You've had enough time to work on your material. And it's pretty easy to fit into a clubhouse once you get it and realize it's not about you.
And I think Alex did a great job of bringing in guys who get it. Because when you bring in 5 guys, including Rosario, plus the 2 that you'd already brought in, I mean, you got a lot of opportunities to bring in some disruptive guys there.
Yep.
Just one guy could screw it up,
Yep.
And he didn't bring in one guy like that. You don't hear guys rolling you don't see guys rolling their eyes or talking about this guy behind his back, off the record. They brought in a bunch of guys who get it, as you say. And these guys, every one of them to a man in their first interviews we did with them, they said the right things just like that too.
Yep,
like
they get it. I know.
Yeah.
It's easy once you get it. You know what's expected of you.
Rich Rod, the first thing he said was, I'm ready for any role, any inning. It doesn't matter. I told them that. And he's done it.
Yep.
So Laird comes over. They all look at coming over here as like, I'm just glad to be part of an organization that's in this thing to win. And I'm ready. And they're all excited. It's just they got lucky with the right guys, or they did their I shouldn't say luck, because they did a lot of vetting of these guys before bringing them in. They weren't going to bring in assholes or guys who were just riding out the string or whatever, or looking ahead to next year, free agency.
Oh, and that gets around quick too. If you're a douche, it's like, everybody knows. Yeah, that's the first thing you never ask. Does he really have as much power as everybody says?
Yeah.
When you trade for a player, the first thing you do is you call somebody on that team and you say, "How's this guy?"
Yeah.
And they'll either be like, "He's awesome," or they'll just be like, "He's okay." Some guys won't want to talk shit, but they'll just say, you might like him once you get to know him, type of guy.
Right.
But the guys that get it, they're going to fit in right away.
And Peterson set the tone, man, when he came in, because that was
he doesn't
coming in.
Get it?
He's got to come in and fill in for. I mean, he knows it's not going to be Acuna, but he's coming in, filling right field and leadoff. Said the right things from day one. Excited as hell. This is a guy that played for the Dodgers last year, then took an offer from the Cubs, and they're just terrible this year. He could have been bitter and looking ahead to next year. This is a guy that went through the heights with the Dodgers and was huge in the World Series, but he comes over here and is excited about it, And at the time, the Braves looked like, whether they're going to make the playoffs. And he said it was nothing but enthusiasm from day one. Funny, great personality with these guys. And that kind of set the tone, I think, and helped them kind of get through that tough stretch, which they could have really fallen apart in those first 18 games after the All-Star break. They could have got buried, gone 5-13 in that stretch and be 8-9 games out and not made any of those moves at the trade deadline.
But that's why it's so important to have guys that have been through it before too. Because they know how long the season is. They don't panic.
Right.
They know when to drop a joke and turn the page on today's loss and be funny. And they know when it's like, shit, time to shut up. And you just be shocked how many guys you think are these great players, and then you see them interact in a clubhouse, and it's like, there's been some guys in the pen I've been with, and you're just like, dude, you are not helping. You are making shit so much worse and making it about you and sulking around. We won the game. You gave up a run. Your ERA went up, and you're just sulking around the clubhouse and taking away from the vibe instead of being the guy that says, screw it, I gave up a 3 spot, but we won. Let's party. It's so much of it, and it comes from your veterans. That sets the tone in the whole clubhouse.
Yeah, and we've talked about this before, and people just don't. There's no way that the average person who doesn't have any kind of access, is not in the clubhouse or know people that are in the clubhouse. If you just, watch it on TV, listen to the announcers or whatever, you're not going to really get a feel for who's really good and who's not in the clubhouse. Some of the times it comes across, Peterson comes across in the interviews as that, but there are guys that are good in the interviews that are not good in the clubhouse.
Suck in the clubhouse. Nobody likes them.
And vice
Nobody
versa.
wants to go to dinner with them. Yeah, there's guys that are terrible players.
Boring.
And guys do not send this guy down. We need him.
Yeah, there's guys that are boring interviews and terrible and aren't doing anything on the field. And people are like, oh my God, he's a cancer. He's bringing. And they might be the best guy in the clubhouse, or they might be holding it all together. I mean, people just don't know, and you can't explain that to them because you can't name names of guys that are douches that they think, that are
nobody calls guys out like that. But it'd be funny
that they think are good guys,
Yeah, he's hitting 350, but you a douche, and if he got traded, we wouldn't even care. We'd probably be a better team. Nobody says that, but it'd be funny.
Oh, yeah. Riley said about getting over 500. He said, I think it's huge because it was on all our minds. He was honest about it. He said, every time we got to that mark, not being able to get over it, because we still got a lot of ball. He said, it's not like we breathe easy because we still got a lot of ball games left, but hopefully it just builds that momentum that we definitely need to get this thing rolling. Because like I said, we're right in there in the hunt. He was talking about the newcomers. He said, up and down the lineup, adding Soler, adding Duvall, those guys 1 through 9 can leave the yard at any moment and drive in runs. He said, I think that's a huge boost. Darno's close. Ian, those guys are close as well. I think once we get those guys back, hopefully it just keeps getting better.
Yep. I think it will too.
Yeah. Speaking of, you were talking about Freddie's numbers. 3 guys here. I got their numbers down. I've read the new numbers of the newcomers, but 3 guys that have really put the offense on their backs lately. Austin Riley. This guy's going to get mentioned in MVP votes, man, if he keeps this up. His past 13 games, by the way, 404, 21 for 52, 8 home runs his last 13 games, 18 RBIs, 904 slugging, 1360 OPS. For the year now, the guy's hitting 292 with 23 homers, 65 ribbies. He's driving in more runs than Freddie. 525 slugging and 897 OPS. Freddie Freeman, past 77 games, he's hitting 329 with 28 extra base hits, including 17 homers, 418 OBP, 541 slug, 959 OPS. His last 23 games, he's hit 372 with a 450 OBP, 1,078 OPS, 7 homers, 12 walks, 9 strikeouts in that stretch, 23 games. On May 7th, he was hitting 195 with a 733 OPS after 31 games. Right now, he's hitting 291 with 24 homers, 61 ribbies, 392 OBP, and a 504 slugging. That's an 895 OPS. That's 3 points above his career OPS, considering the way he started. And he's got a 131 OPS plus that's inching towards his career 138. It's right where he thought it would be. Okay. Then the guy, Dansby Swanson, the guy that I will admit to being surprised at what he's doing. I'm also surprised Riley's done it for all year, because we've seen Riley go through great surges and then have a month where he's just terrible. So Riley has turned a corner in his career this year. But Dansby Swanson, I had this earlier this year, I was starting to write him off because the strikeouts have been enormous this year. But everything else, the average was too low to be a strikeout guy like that, and there wasn't enough power to be a strikeout guy like that. His last 15 games, he's hit 390 with 6 doubles, 4 homers, 16 ribbies, and 1132 OPS.
Yeah.
And that's all during that stretch that kept this team going. Then that really brutal stretch.
Yeah, I mean, I think you had to figure. I figured Freddie would get hot. That's an easy one. He's done it for so long. Yeah. Austin, when I saw
Ozzie, you maybe thought he would have to carry a load with Freddie.
Yeah. But when I saw Austin on MLB Network talking about his swing, how in depth he was with it,
it was impressive.
It was impressive. And it was just kind of like, this guy's going to keep making adjustments and fine tuning this thing where he could eventually get to where he's at now, where he's that kind of hitter. And, I know he's been streaky, but he's young, he's only been in the league a few years. And for me, any guy that can talk that in depth about hitting with his power, because he doesn't have to swing hard. He's just got raw power. Those guys you look at and you think it's just a matter of time before he turns a corner. And hopefully, this is legit.
what, yeah, I meant to ask you last night when I'm watching Reyes do that. What have you ever, what's the closest you've ever been to being in a situation like that where you just felt like, oh my God, I cannot throw a strike? Have you ever
Oh
gone
yeah,
multiple?
I've been there, but
What's that feeling?
it's the worst. I mean, it's almost like you can't feel the ball in your hand. And once you get to the point where it's a thing, and your pitching coach knows you can't throw a strike, you could see the catcher just guessing at signs.
Yeah.
Anything you could throw for a strike. We're not even trying to set the hitter up, or I'm just trying to find anything you can throw in the zone right now.
Yeah.
You see the catcher go on that mode. You look at the hitter, and he's standing there just bored. He's not swinging. And then the fans are cheering you. Like once you get into that mode,
Oh, you hear the fans do it.
all you start thinking about is trying to throw a strike, and you'll start guiding the ball. So when you start guiding it, you lose that natural like rhythm and release, and everything becomes real like cautious and tentative, and you start almost like it feels like you're pushing the ball instead of whipping it and throwing it, and you're feeling for that release point. Once you go into that mode, like I said, there's no way out.
Yeah.
The only way out is to just say screw it and throw it as hard as you can, which not many guys do because they're already in a hole, or the hitter has to swing and let you off the hook. But I feel like pretty much every time in my career I was in that mode, I might have walked one guy, but I knew in my head, if they don't swing,
Yeah.
I will walk 17 in a row right now. And it's like you throw one lucky strike, maybe a 1-0, and you try to throw a sinker and it cuts middle, and you get a strike, and then the hitter's like, okay, he's coming at me, or they see that pitch right down the middle and they think, if I get that again, I'm swinging. And then you try to throw it down the middle again and it winds up sinking. You get a ground ball, double play or something. But it's blows my mind how often the hitters let you off the hook there. And like I said, I talk to hitters all the time, and they say, well, he just threw 3 balls in a row, he's going to groove one. And as a pitcher, I just tried to throw it down the middle 7 times and I threw 1 strike. But the hitters go up there and they think that, and then what they wind up doing is you try to throw it down the middle and it sails up and away, and you get a pop out to the catcher, or you get a double play ball somehow because they chase. But if the hitters don't chase in that mode, you'll walk until your manager takes you out of the game.
So some hitters are going up there looking for a grand slam instead of an RBI walk.
Oh yeah, well they think you're going to groove one. They think you're going to, or especially
after my chance. I got a grand slam here.
After a mound visit, they think the same thing. The mound visit doesn't change anything. I'm still lost.
Yeah.
I mean, maybe I caught my breath, but I don't need to, I'm not tired physically right now. I'm lost. And it's crazy, but so many times the hitters just let you off the hook, and you're just thinking, thank God, when you're walking off the field. And so that's why it was so huge that Vogt came up in that situation.
Yeah.
Because Vogt's been on the other end of calling those pitches.
Yes.
And thinking, this guy will never throw another strike. Let me try a slider. Let me try his 3rd pitch, his changeup 2-0. And, you call that, and then they scud at 15 feet, but he's just trying anything to mix it up. So he's been on the receiving end of that and seen a pitcher that lost, and he's seen the hitters do them favors over and over. So he went up there yesterday. I was like, I didn't think he would swing unless he got to 2 strikes.
So it was a perfect shitstorm for Reyes when you think about it, because he had one Peterson, Dodgers,
patient.
The Dodgers, the ultimate patient organization, make pitchers work.
Yep.
Then you're following him with that veteran Adrianza.
Yep.
This guy's a veteran. He's been around. So he's a smart guy too. Adrianza's really bright.
He puts together good at bats a lot.
Yeah. So when you tell him, go up there, make him throw a strike, he's going to listen to that. He's not going to get panic and forget it and all this. And then you got Vogt, like you just said, for the reasons you just said.
I knew he wasn't. There's no chance he was swinging early in the count.
And on top of that, you've got a reliever who throws 100 miles an hour. If he threw 90, guys are going up there going, if he's going to throw me a strike, I'm going to swing. I'm going to fucking grand slam. But he throws 100. So they're going, if I got a chance to walk, I'm going to walk.
I'm going to take this easy out. If I can get out of this situation and not have to try to hit 100,
He might have been a lot better off if he was just a normal reliever, not a closer that throws 100 miles an hour,
and that's probably what works for my benefit, because I was throwing 91.
Yeah.
So, a righty comes up there, they think they can do damage off you.
The guys are going, if he throws a strike, I can hit it. I got me a grand slam here. This game's over.
Yep. They did a great job. Nobody tried to be a hero, because it's almost like every time, and you could even know the guys that were going to come up and be a hero, and it'd make you feel a little calmer. Like a real aggressive power guy. Like if Javi Baez came up in that situation, you can't throw strikes.
Yeah.
Shit, he wants to hit a grand slam here.
Jesus, do you see his game yesterday?
I saw him swinging a ball in the other batter's box.
Do you know what he did yesterday?
0
for 5, 5 strikeouts.
What's that called? Golden sombrero's 4.
Platinum sombrero, 5Ks.
Yeah.
Platinum. Got to be platinum or titanium. I mean, it just never
Something
happened.
nice.
So you don't even have a name for it.
Something high end.
I think it said it was like 2 or 3 times in Mets history. 5 strikeouts in 5 at bats.
Yep.
Good Lord. That's brutal.
I got to go back and listen to the Mets announcers on his
Oh,
fifth.
yeah. I know. I want to see it.
What they're saying about that.
I know. So by the way, on Swanson, real good sign on Swanson. He has got 2 strikeouts in his last 6 games for a guy that had struck out 49 times in a previous 40 games and was 3rd in the NL with 117 strikeouts. Baez is one of the only 2 guys that was ahead of him. So that's a really good sign. He's got 2 strikeouts his last 4 games. What I think he's got none in his last. No strikeouts the last 2 nights, 1 in the series.
Yeah. I mean, it's amazing too what just a little bloop single can do for an inning to keep it moving.
And I asked 2 in the last 2 in the last 7 games now. 7 games. So I asked Sites about that. I talked to Sites this week. I don't know if you saw that story I wrote about his hip thing, man. Oh my God, dude, I was hurting when he was telling me that. My hip was hurting just listening to him talk about that. He said, he goes, and this guy that's had surgeries, some bad injuries and all this. He goes, I've never had pain even close to that. And it was for 4 straight hours. He told his wife, if I'm ever going to do that again, I hope God takes me because I don't ever want to go through that again. What he said, I almost rolled myself off the freaking gurney in the trauma center in hopes that it would pop the hip back in place when he landed on the concrete. He said it was just unbelievable. And he showed me an x-ray of it. Oh my God, dude, the titanium ball in there, the joint thing, the piece, it was completely out of the socket. And they're trying to get it in and push it in. Bone on metal.
Oh, that's great entertainment for the clubhouse too.
He's out there in the hallway. The ambulance comes. He's out in the hallway screaming. He goes, I've never yelled in pain in my life. He goes, if you yell, it's a 10. He goes, and I was yelling.
Oh God.
But anyway, great. I asked him about Dansby Swanson, the strikeouts. And he goes, we've talked about it. He said, I'm like, dude, you shouldn't strike out this much. I mean, you've got tremendous hand-eye coordination. You're as athletic as anybody on the field. And there's no reason with your hand-eye that you shouldn't be able to cut these things down. He said, and he understands because it's not just him. There's a lot of strikeouts from a lot of guys in our lineup. It's kind of the trade-off of really focusing on juice. Guys want to slug. They want to do damage. And a lot of times that's going to lead to strikeouts. And he said, and it's not necessarily on strike 3. It's how you get to 2 strikes, trying to do a little too much with no strikes, 1 strike. And then you start chasing, you foul stuff off that you've crushed, that you should have crushed. So now you're grinding with 2 strikes, and big league pitchers have got weapons when you get to 2 strikes.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, that's a great way to put it.
But he said that Dansby, gets it. He talked to him about it. And sure enough, they've started focusing on it. And it really looks night and day in the last week. So we'll see if he's turned a page in that regard. But he was piling them up. He was getting 1.5 every game, averaging. So.
Yeah. I mean, well, that's the way the game's headed too. There's not enough emphasis on putting the ball in play, but I mean, even a bloop single opens up a hole on the right side for the next guy when the first baseman has to hold you on, and as a pitcher coming up against a lineup of guys that are trying to do damage is a lot more comfortable than when you face a bunch of guys that will take their single. Because when a guy will take their single, that fastball down and away, it could be a single opposite field. But when you got a guy coming up trying to crush it, it's a double play ball. They roll over it. So when you face those aggressive guys that are trying to do damage, if you make a pitch, they're out. When a guy's willing to take a single, like I hated facing guys like Markakis, because if I threw Markakis a fastball away, I knew he'd gladly just pepper it to left field. Maybe he won't hurt me. Maybe he's not taking me deep, but that you have to make pitches, and that just puts a different pressure on you.
Yeah. Pesky persistent hitters. Drive you crazy, huh?
Drive me nuts. I hated those guys. The Mariners or the Angels, when I was with the Mariners, had Chone Figgins and Reggie Willicks at the top of their lineup. It was just a nightmare for me because both of them could run and both of them were willing to take their singles. Or like when the Phillies had Rollins and Victorino up top.
Yes.
You know, both those guys were going to battle. If they got on, they were a problem. I mean, they could both take you deep, but when you face a lineup of guys that you know is willing to put the ball in play, it's a lot harder than when you face guys that are just swinging out their ass trying to do damage.
All right. Well, we kept talking about it all year, waiting for that run. And we might be in the middle of it now with the Braves. Finally, something different to talk about. And
I feel good about it.
I like where they are, man. I like where they are with getting Darno. They could have Darno back as soon as Sunday, probably Tuesday after the off day Monday, but they could bring him back as soon as Sunday. He caught last night Ian Anderson's rehab. He's catching Enoa's rehab start tonight. Then he's going to DH at least one game, and then you could see him after that. And then you could have Enoa back if they bring him back for the pen. You could have him back in a couple of weeks if he comes back in the pen, not starting. You don't really need him starting right now, and especially with you bringing Ian Anderson back. Ian Anderson will probably make 2 or 3 rehab starts, and he'll be back.
Enoa's got balls though. He'll do well in the pen.
Yeah, I think
that's
so
where
too.
they put him.
And we'll see what Rosario does if he adds anything. But I like where this team is right now, man. I think they're in a real good spot.
Guys. Just the way they're playing. Just the way they're playing. Starting to win those games they won last year. The last 2 nights were games they won repeatedly all year last year, and they've barely won any of those.
No,
down late. You know,
no, they're due to win some of those. Yeah, because they. I think the baseball gods evened it all out for the last few years in that first half.
They did. They made them pay. Games. Yeah.
All right. Well, we'll talk again on probably Monday on the off day. And
cool.
If Eric has not had another child by then.
She's due today, so we'll see.
All right, man. Well, good luck with that.
Yep.
All right. 7:55 is real. We are out.
All right.